Jane Harper's debut novel, The Dry, it wasn't just a bestseller. It was a full-blown phenomenon. And the film adaptation, it followed right along with massive critical acclaim. So what is it about this story of secrets and sorrow in the Australian outback that just grabs people? Well, let's dive into the sun-scorched world of Kiwara and find out. Right from the very first page, this story just plunges you into this grim, oppressive atmosphere. The heat, the dust, that sense of decay, it's so much more than just a setting. It's like a warning of the darkness that's about to unfold. And this is the unforgettable opening of the novel. In just 2 sentences, Harper paints this haunting landscape, and she hooks you with this masterfully introduced family tragedy. It is just a masterclass in setting a chilling tone. So, the whole story is set in this fictional town called Kiwara, a community that's been absolutely ravaged by over a decade of drought. And here, the parched earth isn't just some background detail. No, it's an active participant in the whole tragedy, a silent witness to the town's decay. Okay, so our protagonist is this guy, Aaron Falk. He's a financial investigator from Melbourne, a real city man, and he's forced to go back to the rural hometown that he and his father fled from under this cloud of suspicion 2 decades earlier. So why is he back? Well, he's there for the funeral of his childhood best friend, Luke. The official story is that Luke killed his wife, his son, and then himself. Another awful tragedy that everyone's blaming on the crushing pressure of the drought. But Luke's parents, they are convinced he's innocent, and they beg Falk to investigate. And this, right here, is where our story really kicks off. But, to really get why The Dry works so well, we first need to take a look at the genre it so perfectly embodies: outback noir. First off, the word noir, it's French for black. And that pretty much tells you everything you need to know, right? These are these existential, pessimistic stories where the main characters are flawed, they're morally ambiguous, and they're often trapped in these situations where there's just no good way out. Now, it's super easy to get noir mixed up with hard-boiled detective stories, but there's a really key difference. See, a hard-boiled detective, someone like Philip Marlowe, he might bend the rules, but at the end of the day, he brings back some kind of justice. But in noir, as the author Megan Abbott puts it, everyone is fallen. There are no easy answers, and order, that is rarely, if ever, restored. And that brings us to the Australian twist on all this: outback noir. This is where the sheer scale and hostility of the landscape, that oppressive heat, the suffocating isolation, the relentless dryness, it just cranks up the genre's built-in dread and hopelessness to an almost unbearable level. Okay, so here's where The Dry gets really clever. Its narrative structure is just brilliant. It's not just one mystery we're following, it's 2, and they're woven together across time, both haunting the exact same small town. So you've got these 2 big events, but they're separated by 2 decades. 20 years ago, Falk's high school friend Ellie Deacon drowned. He was the last person to see her alive, and the suspicion from that is what drove him out of town. Now, in the present, his other childhood friend, Luke, is the main suspect in his own family's murder. You see, Falk is just inescapably tangled up in both tragedies. And that right there is the big question driving the whole story. As Falk reluctantly starts digging into Luke's death, he's forced to unearth all these long-buried secrets from Ellie's death. And he discovers that in a town like Kiwara, the past is never really dead. Now, I know we've already talked about the setting, but seriously, you cannot overstate how important it is. The drought in The Dry is way more than just a backdrop. It's an active antagonist, just relentlessly pressuring every single character until they're at their breaking point. This quote from Gretchen, one of Falk's old friends, man, it just perfectly sums up the psychological damage of the drought. The community isn't just thirsty, it's suffocating under this blanket of fear, desperation, and anxiety. It feels like as the land is dying, the people are dying right along with it. And, this has led some critics to see something even deeper going on here. A review from The Curb, for instance, argues that this relentless focus on the drought acts as this powerful commentary on climate change, turning a fictional crisis into a really urgent and uncomfortably familiar warning. Look, adapting a book that people absolutely love for the screen, that's always a huge challenge, right? And yet, the film version of The Dry was this remarkable success. And that's mostly because it understood exactly how to translate the story's power into a whole new medium.
The film, which stars Eric Bana as Aaron Falk and was directed by Robert Connolly, it just masterfully captures the novel's oppressive atmosphere. You can almost feel the heat coming right off the screen.
So how did they pull it off where so many other adaptations fail? Well, it's all about understanding what makes each medium special. While Jane Harper used her incredible writing to build tension and character, the film relied on stunning cinematography, a really sparse and haunting musical score, and a phenomenal cast to get that same effect. And the performances? Oh man, they were just spot on across the board. Eric Bana perfectly captures that guarded, world-weary Falk. Keir O'Donnell brings this much-needed warmth as the local sergeant, Greg Recco. And in all the flashback scenes, Bibe Betancourt is just heartbreakingly real as the troubled Ellie Deacon. So let's step back for a second. Why does this story stick with people so much? It's because it's more than just a great thriller. At its heart, it's about so much more than just solving a crime. At its core, this is a story all about what happens when desperate acts and secrets are left to fester for decades in a small town. It shows you how a single secret, just one lie, can poison relationships and completely twist a community's identity. And it's also a really powerful look at that classic urban versus rural divide. The story forces us to confront the immense strain, environmental, economic, and social, that gets placed on these small farming communities. The kinds of towns that are often forgotten until a tragedy puts them in the spotlight. And that's what The Dry leaves you with, this really haunting question. It blurs the line between good and evil, and it forces you to think about the crushing weight of circumstance. It's a question that really gets to the heart of Outback Noir. And believe me, it's one that will stay with you long after the story is over.